All right, I want you to have a nice tight core. If you have any pain, okay, in your back, just slightly bend your knees. Hey guys, Mark McKillier with Live Anabolic, and today I put together a really cool resistance band workout just for your shoulders, for all you beginners out there. So why is this picture up here, okay? It's because, guys, we can't see our shoulders a lot of time from the back, which is where a lot of people see you. And so I take these little goofy pictures at the gym, and I didn't realize how good of shoulders I have until I can see them from behind, and I guarantee you none of you guys have seen yourself from behind, all right, whether it's your back or your shoulders. So shoulders are fantastic. They're a fantastic muscle group to make you look really big and wide. And when you look really big and wide up here, it means your waist looks much smaller relatively. Even if you're carrying around extra fat that you don't like, it still makes your waist look smaller because your shoulders are so big and wide. All right, so these little resistance bands here, right? You get a whole set of them with 5 different colored bands, different resistances. You have an anchor that comes with them. You have handles. All right, all of that off of Amazon cost $25 to $30. Fantastic bang for your buck, guys. These things are really inexpensive, but they're extremely efficient, okay? Working out at home, you can get tons of fantastic exercises in, all right? Not just your shoulders. You could do biceps and triceps and chest and legs and all kinds of stuff. But today, we're just focusing on shoulders. And for you beginners out there, I want you to understand that your shoulders have 3 primary muscle groups that make up your shoulder cap here, right? So you have a muscle in the front here that you often hit when you're doing some kind of a pressing movement, almost like a bench press. You also engage that front part of your shoulder. Now you have your lateral, there's a lateral muscle here, okay? And then there's a smaller muscle in the back that helps bring your elbow backwards, okay? So those are the 3 muscle groups that we have to target if we want to build an overall impressive shoulder, okay? So these 4 exercises I show you today are gonna hit all 3 of those distinct muscle groups. Now some of these exercises are gonna engage 2 or even all 3 of them at the same time. But I'm going to switch it up. Some of these exercises that we do are going to really focus on just 1 or 2 of the 3. Now the first one, guys, is called a military overhead press. So normally if we had dumbbells, we'd be doing this standing up, or you could actually sit down and do seated dumbbell presses. But because these bands, okay, we're going to be using our feet as the anchor point. Well, guess what? You try to get these handles, even if you've only got 1 band, it's got so much stretch, so much resistance already at the starting point. It's going to be tough to do, even with a single band. So this is the trick, guys. Get down on your knees, okay? It's as simple as that, all right? Now remember, I want you to center the bands from side to side. If one side's a little longer than the other, then it's going to have less resistance than the shorter side, all right? So there's 2 ways of doing this. You can put the bands behind your arms, okay, and go up. And that tends to scrape my skin, okay, with this little strap right here. Or just hold them in front like this. That way you don't have to deal with the scraping. So we're just going to start right here. This is called a military overhead press. I want you to look straight forward or even slightly up, okay? And we're just going to push straight up and down. Straight up, guys. It's almost like you have a barbell in your hands, okay? And you're going straight up and down. Now, if coming down here is too tough for you, you can just come to here and do little partial reps, all right? But guys, this is a tough exercise with these resistance bands, so you're gonna have to experiment with the different colors. Each color is a different resistance, right? So a lot of them will have a number, okay, on the strap here. It'll have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, okay? So you're probably gonna have to start with the lightest resistance band, okay? Now today, for beginners, I want you to develop the coordination and that mind-muscle connection that goes with using bands on different kinds of exercises. It's gonna feel a little awkward at first. So because of that, I want you to be doing 15 reps on every single exercise, okay? So because we're doing so many reps, that means you're gonna have to pick a really lightweight band. Otherwise, you'll fatigue out way before you get to 15. You might only get to 8 or 9, okay? And you'll just be dead and you'll have to stop. So the goal here, guys, is not to use a real heavy resistance and kill yourself. The goal is to use a light resistance and build the mind-muscle connection, the balance, the coordination it takes to do these movements with really good form, okay? That's the goal. All right, now exercise number 2, we're gonna be targeting the rear part of our shoulder. Now that first exercise, the military overhead press, we're really engaging all 3 of the major muscle groups that make up our shoulder cap. This one, really focusing more just exclusively on the back part of your shoulder. It's a much smaller muscle, okay? It's often neglected because it's kind of hard to get to. It requires kind of an awkward movement here, guys. So you're gonna have to pick probably the lightest band, the least resistance band, okay? Now, I'm centering on my feet here, all right? Take your feet apart a little bit. Then I'm gonna cross over, okay? So create a cross here, because what I'm gonna end up doing, remember these are called bent over rear delt raises. So I'm gonna bend over, I'm gonna be picking a spot kind of out in front of me on the ground, okay? I'm gonna stick my butt out and I'm gonna raise my hands up as far as I can. Nice, slow, steady movement here, guys. Now, one thing I want you guys to experiment with is the width of your feet. So I wasn't at the bottom of the movement here. I didn't have much tension on the bands. I want tension on that band at the bottom of the movement. So this is what we're gonna do. Take a wider stance, okay? All right, now see how the bands are shorter on each side? That means when I cross them over like this, I already have some resistance right now, okay? When my feet were closer together, I had almost no resistance at the bottom of the movement. So once again, I'm gonna bend over, bend my knees, stick my butt out, and I'm gonna be staring right in front of my body here, and I'm just gonna slowly control that band up and down, okay? So I want you guys to do 15 of these, all right? So pick a real light resistance, because this is a small muscle group and it's going to be difficult to do with good form. And if it's too hard, okay, even with the lightest band, just move your feet closer together, and then that will reduce the starting resistance and of course the ending resistance also, because effectively when your feet are closer, the band is longer up here, which means there's less resistance, okay? It's not stretching as much as you bring your elbows back. So this particular movement is a little harder than most of them to get the form right, because you're bent over. It feels a little weird. You can't see yourself, you know, in a mirror if you were at a gym doing this. I find guys doing this at the gym wrong all the time. Now typically at the gym they're not using bands, they're using dumbbells. So what they'll do is they'll bend over and they'll just yank the dumbbells up, and they'll move their head up, they'll move their body. And so they try to use their whole upper body to swing the dumbbell up instead of just using this little tiny muscle, the rear part of your delt. And so I want you guys to feel like you're pulling your elbows up, okay? Focus on the elbows. Don't worry so much about your hands when you're lifting these bands. Focus on the elbow joint, and then you'll be able to feel it in the back of your shoulder. You'll start to feel that burn. Okay, so exercise number 3 is something called a lateral delt raise, or just lateral raises. Now, once again, we're going to be using our feet as an anchor here, guys. Now, this is going to focus mostly on this big side muscle here on your shoulder. So when you're looking straight at me, you got, you know, a muscle here, a muscle on the outside, and one on the back. And this is a big part of your overall shoulder. And that's why I really like these exercises, because remember, the more we build our lateral, okay, head of the delt, the wider we look. The front and the rear make your shoulder look fatter this way, you know, from front to back. This way, wide. That's what we're looking for. So once again, my feet, okay, are gonna be on the bands. So you have to use a pretty light weight here too, guys. You can't use multiple bands. So I get them equal length, And then once again, I like to cross them over here. It just works slightly better. All right, now this time I'm just gonna be looking straight ahead, okay? This is the starting point, kind of relaxed at the bottom. And I'm just gonna bring my hands up. Now remember, I'm really not thinking about raising my hands. I'm really focusing on getting my elbows up. All right, because I don't want my hands to come up higher than my elbows here, okay? That puts a lot of stress on your rotator cuff. So if you focus on bringing your elbows up, it'll bring your hands with it, because I can't do this, okay? Your hands naturally want to be here. So when you're going through your range of motion here, just guys, you're gonna have a little bend in your elbows. You don't need to lock them out. Don't do this, okay? Have a nice little, gentle bend, and keep that bend kind of consistent, okay? So the bend is the same here as it is at the bottom, okay? Nice controlled tempo all the way up and down. Once again, we're gonna do 15 reps. All 4 exercises today, 15 reps, which means you have to pick a light weight, a light resistance, and you have to really focus on the form. Now, guys, if the lightest weight on this exercise is still too tough to do for 15 reps, do this. Put your feet real close together. Center the straps, and this time don't cross them over. Because when you cross them over, it effectively makes them shorter, which means you have more starting resistance. So now, when my feet close together, no crossover, there's much less resistance in those bands, okay? So you guys are gonna need to experiment. Everybody out there is gonna have to use a different resistance and a slightly different technique. Because remember, you're shooting for 15 reps. If you guys were just doing however many reps you wanted, you could do whatever you want, okay? You could do 6 or 7, you could pick different colors, you could have them crossed over, it doesn't matter. You could fatigue at 4, okay? That might be your max, but that's not the goal, especially for beginners. I always have beginners doing lighter weight for higher rep counts, because that will train your brain for that mind-muscle connection that we really want. Because once you get that coordination down, okay, over the next few weeks, maybe even a month or 2, then you start upping the resistance. You start making it more difficult. We don't have to do 15 reps now. Now we can pick a heavier resistance band and only shoot for, say, 10 reps. Then you can really, really strain at the exercise, okay, and put a lot of mental effort, a lot of muscular effort into it, because you've already built that balance and that coordination by doing it the correct form with a light weight and high rep count for the first few weeks or month. Okay, so the last exercise today, pretty straightforward. It's called a front delt raise. Now remember, we've targeted kind of all of our muscles simultaneously when we were doing the overhead military press, okay? Then we targeted the rear part of our shoulder with the bent over lateral raises, okay? And then we targeted the lateral part of our shoulder with exercise number 3. You know, just basically your straightforward lateral raises. Now this is a front delt raise, which is going to focus more on the front part of our shoulder, okay? Now we're still engaging some of the other muscles in our shoulder, but more emphasis is placed up here. Once again, we're just going to use our feet as the anchor. These are real straightforward exercises, okay? I'm using the lightest resistance band here. You're probably going to have to do the same, okay? Feet nice and close. Now, equal length both side to side, okay? And I'm just going to be facing straight ahead, and I'm just going to bring those handles straight up in front of me. Now don't go all the way down here, okay, if you can, because right now at the very bottom I basically have no resistance on my shoulders. So if you stop with your hands slightly in front of you, there's still a little bit of tension on my delts, okay? So you don't have to come all the way up. I just want you coming to about shoulder height here, okay? And then back down almost to the bottom, but not all the way, okay? Really control that movement. Suck your gut in, all right? I want you to have a nice tight core. If you have any pain, okay, in your back, just slightly bend your knees, all right? And I want you to do 15 reps. Now, one trick I want to bring up here, okay? If you're going through these exercises and you're picking the least resistance band in the set and you still can't get to 15, this is the trick. Bend your knees. So remember, the difficulty of the band is partly related to how much tension, how much stretch, or how long the band is at the very beginning of the movement. So If this is too hard, all right, bend your knees, right? Because guess what? There's very little resistance now at the bottom of the movement, especially when you're doing lateral raises and you have them crossed over. If you're standing up here, see how there's already tension, even at the bottom? But if I bend my knees, there's almost no tension now at the bottom, which means there's even less tension up here than if I stand up. See how much more stretch in the band? So the more stretch in the band means the more tension it's applying to your muscles. So that is a real quick, simple little down and dirty trick where you can regulate according to your particular fitness level, okay, how much resistance you're adding to your muscles. And that is really important when you're doing certain muscle groups where you just are not very strong. And I mean, everybody's not real strong in their shoulders with these particular exercises just because of the leverages involved, okay? The physics involved means that very few people can do more than one or even the lightest or maybe the lightest plus the next lightest, okay? I can't do a lot of resistance on these exercises I just showed you. So guys, shoulders are a really impressive muscle group that most of us don't even really think about. We're always thinking about our chest, right? Or our biceps, all right? Those are the two biggies, especially for beginners that really haven't been doing this for a long time. But as you kind of follow a lot of my videos, you'll see me explain why these other muscle groups are so important, and then you'll start to kind of understand that as a whole, once we start hitting everything, that's when the package comes together and things really start to pop and look great. So when you build a big chest and big shoulders and big arms, boom, you're seeing all these different muscles, you know, tying in to other muscle groups. And then when you start to lose that body fat, that's when, boom, all those muscles really start to shine. So you guys, I'm sure, don't follow some of these serious bodybuilders. And I don't mean the big steroid crazy guys. I'm talking about guys that are, you know, about 20 pounds bigger than me, young guys. And so they'll be working out throughout the course of the year and they're eating a lot of food, more than they really need, because they're trying to build muscle. It's called their bulking phase. So when they do that, they put on fat unnecessarily. But that is their way of building muscle, as much muscle as they can in a short period of time. And then guess what? They have a contest coming up. They got to get stage ready. Then they go on a real strict diet. I mean, it's called a cutting phase. So they restrict their calories, all right? So they take in far fewer calories every day via food than they expend through exercise, and they add a lot of cardio that they normally don't do. So that starts to burn all that excess body fat that they put on while they were building muscle, but they still keep hitting their exercises every day, all right? So when they're in their bulk phase, you see pictures of these guys with their shirt off, man, you're like, ooh, not real impressive, okay? I mean, yeah, they're kind of big, but you know, it's not somebody that you would want to look like, right? They're just a little soft and a little fluffy. And guess what? After about 2 months of cutting, all right, they drop all that body fat. These guys just look unbelievable. They look like a different human being, all right? They just look ripped. They look far bigger. Literally, even though they've lost 20 pounds, because you can see their muscle definition, they actually look bigger and stronger, okay, than they did when they were actually bigger and stronger. So, guys, it's really about the whole package. It's about the nutrition, shedding that body fat, and then that's when things really start to look impressive. But guess what? It ain't gonna happen overnight. All right, this takes a while, which means you gotta stick with it and never give up on yourself.